good and they feel fulfilled when they receive love in a certain way and when they give love in a certain way. Like that's their love language for lack of a better word. But I wish we had more
Yeah.
words for love. I say that every time because like
Yeah,
it's not just romance. It's like we all need love to survive. You can't
really. It's like a
live without.
fuel.
It is, yeah. Just like the connection energy with somebody, that's a form of love, right?
Mm,
And when you connect with somebody and it feels fulfilling and you get energy from that and they get energy, it's like, what a beautiful experience. Just Jupiter is a great planet to talk about hope and like Venus is also and like how people can like show up for love and how they can receive love and give love and what feels good for them and feels like natural, like we talked about before, how like Leo moons are different than like an Aquarius moon or like, you know,
yeah.
things that they value and but they, how they feel good and they feel fulfilled.
Welcome back, Mary. Um,
Thanks, Holden, for having me.
Super happy to have you. And I'm really excited for what's going on in the stars for us all. And I wanted to start. What are the key points you are seeing, like as of right now, like in this transit or the maybe not transit, but yeah, the positioning, planets and stuff.
I know before we were talking about Jupiter, did you want to specifically focus on that?
Yeah, sure. So
That
that.
could be fun. That's a big one. And people tend to look forward to the Jupiter transits. They happen roughly like once a year. And
Mm-hmm.
so Jupiter will be leaving Cancer, a sign in the chart that is ruled by the moon. And it can be that sign tends to focus on like home, family life. It's like family versus work life. And like people may have felt the past year like their family life, their home life, their mental, their mind being amplified because wherever Jupiter goes in the chart, whenever Jupiter goes into a new sign, it it provides like a spotlight on that sign and the different um, characteristics, meanings of that sign. And so Cancer is all about the moon, mother, mental, intuition. People may have found more of a desire to focus on their family or themselves. It's how you nurture yourself and how you nurture others. And it could have felt kind of very internal and deep. It could have felt like people may have had some, even struggles confronting or emotions could have been amplified, but that was a way to process and to move on from that.
Mm-hmm.
And like people would have definitely felt their subconsciousness, their subconscious and intuition may have been heightened in the past year. And it can feel very not lonely or isolating, but it has been an opportunity to go inward and just reprioritize what you value and like
Mm-hmm.
to understand and maybe like when Jupiter was in Gemini, people may have been working a lot or just spending a lot of their time in not really deep or fulfilling experiences in life. And so that was the year before Jupiter entered Cancer. So when Jupiter entered Cancer, it's like, okay, that past year was fun, but it wasn't very like, deep or fulfilling. I can hear the voices in the background.
Yeah.
I don't know
Sorry,
if you'll,
that's my sister.
no, I don't know if you'll be able to edit that out, but I hope, I mean, I don't know how
Yeah, it's
on your
okay.
end
I'll be able to
figure
shuffle
it
that
out.
out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
speaking of Jupiter and Cancer, it's like all about the home.
Yeah.
And
So
so,
it's actually this was like on cue.
exactly. And so, yeah, because your home life is front and center and for you. And, but I think that the, the good, what the benefit of going inward and reassessing or just reprioritizing or becoming very clear about your values and what is important for nurturing yourself and nurturing people in your life is that it creates a nice foundation for when Jupiter moves into Leo, and that is going to happen on June 30th because that is a Leo's ruled by the sun. So
Mm.
it's a very different energy than Jupiter in Cancer, even though they are right next to each other in the zodiac. It's the sign that comes after Cancer is Leo. So you have the moon, then you have the sun, and the sun is vitality. Um, it's it's conscious. Where so we've just left a more subconscious, introspective year of Jupiter shining light on that. And now we're going into a very conscious, like visible energy of Jupiter moving into Leo. And the sun is about ego. And I mean, nothing negative about the word ego. It's good to have a healthy ego.
Mhm.
It's about identity and it's how we show up and how we express ourselves outwardly. So it's going to be a different energy, and it can expand that. I think that where people should watch out is if they find they're becoming too expressive, or there is a fine line about that. But, in general, that's what people might just feel where maybe they felt kind of like in a hermit mode the past year, reflecting, prioritizing emotions and, like family priorities, home priorities.
Mm.
Now it's going to become much more, all of those seeds are going to be now, people should be ready to express that, their new values, their new ways of how they express themselves. They'll they'll start in June 30th, and it's pretty exciting. So until I'm not sure when the exact end date. I think it's like next July,
Mm.
July of 2027 is when it ends in Leo. But I think that for any viewers that are old enough to remember to where they were 12 years ago, and then 12 years before that, you'll see similar themes playing out. It's not going to be the same story, but it'll be a similar story.
Mm.
And so if 12 years ago and then 12 years before that felt really great in your life, and then you might have a similar experience, but just a different storyline,
Yeah.
but similar vein of a similar narrative. It's like a choose your own adventure book. And you're like, okay, I'm going to go decide now. But it's the same basic story, but then it might just go down a different path. So,
Yeah,
uh,
that's
yeah.
interesting. Like it's like yeah, so it's like 12 years ago. Personally, I was in middle school. One of my middle schools.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy. But yeah, so I do, and yeah, 12 years ago, I was a fun, really fun age set.
Well, I have a question for you. So 12 years ago, did you move? Was it kind of like, I know middle school can also create, not, I don't know which grade you were in, if you're entering seventh grade or eighth grade, but
Mm.
that environment can also, it's kind of like a reinvention of yourself when you go to a new school,
Mm.
and maybe you found yourself with like a different group of friends or a different way of expressing yourself uh publicly too. Like it's like almost like, I know your chart, so I could see that you are a Leo rising, right? So I
Mm.
could see possibly like you were were very popular and like people wanted to be your friend that year or something like that. That's the energy that it could have been. But it would have just really put a focus on you because
Mm.
you have Leo as your first house. So it's like you were like people, there's Holden, like everybody probably like you were probably gaining a lot of attention, um, in positive attention from
Mm.
people. I don't know if your friendship circles expanded at that point, but I could see that being.
Definitely. Well, they transitioned at that point because I was I went from middle school um in the Woodlands, Texas, and then after that, after that, I moved to Evans, Georgia, which is like Texas, like or not, yeah, that's in Georgia. It's like Augusta. That's what I was trying to think of.
Hmm.
And then in at the time of this transit, it was after that I moved to high school, my high school town of Sewanee, Georgia,
Mm.
and or Atlanta basically. And that was so I never really had a long, really long lasting set or group of friends and stuff. So like I don't know, it's just hard for me to compare like because my experience is very different from everybody else's. I feel like.
You moved a number of times during that part of your life.
Mm, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean throughout my whole life basically.
Right. But I think, well, it could have, did you find, so it would have been 2014 and
Mm,
2015. Did you find that you were kind of like more well known, or maybe you felt also, at that age in your life, like you just physically, you're going through a lot of changes, right? And so you're like,
mm.
girls and, boys going through puberty. And so I just think that could have also felt like in the spotlight, maybe, and maybe it wasn't, although it would be an external event for you because your first house, Leo. And um, I think that I could see, people probably were noticing you in a way that they hadn't before, especially if you were a new kid in a new area, even if it was only for 1 year. And then, switching back, it would have been a different vibe when
Mhm.
Jupiter entered Virgo the next year. So, but a tool that anybody can use, and I've done this with my own 52 years of living, I've gone back to the 12 years, and that there's always something that is the general theme of Leo and where Leo is in my chart, which is my fourth house. My house, that's your
Mm,
fourth house in your chart. The fourth piece of the pie is your home. And so I've had a lot of expansions in the home during that time, or changes in the home, or the first time I ever traveled abroad, I was 15, and that would have been a time of when there was this shift, like traveling abroad.
mhm. Where'd you
And
go? That's the question. Also.
well, I went to France, and
Sweet.
I there for a month, and I never left the home my home country. And then the very first time that I experienced this transit was when I was 3 years old, and my family moved from California to Washington, D.C.
Mm,
So changing a home then. And then when I was 27, I moved, I got married, I had my first child. My home expanded and I had a new home. And then at 39, same thing. I had my fourth child. We had a new home. I moved to a new place. So that's always been a theme for me. And so I do feel, for me personally, I could definitely see myself moving within the next year. A
mm.
lot of things in my chart indicate that, but it's not my plan right now. I
Yeah.
find that for me personally, like another theme when you reflect back about your stuff is like, for me, it was always unexpected. It was like a really awesome, lucky surprise. So I kind of like the energy. I do like those types of changes. I feel like the seeds we plant when Jupiter's been in Cancer,
Mm,
like that's like a manifestation energy when we get clear about our values and our priorities and we learn how to show up as our, what do we really feel aligned with? What energy is true to who we are, true to our mind, to our just like the core. You know what I mean? Like different
mm,
than sun energy is moon energy. And so I think that is sort of the seeds planted in manifestation. And then you can see that a year later when it goes into Leo, when Jupiter goes there. So that is a big shift. I know we talked about discussing, and I think I think it's good to, empower people with information and, they can look at their own life and kind of understand that narrative and understand how it might play out.
mm.
And so if you have enough of these Jupiter cycles, you start to see themes. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's super super cool. And like I was thinking like yeah, that's just I don't know, it's a really awesome because like as humans like we like rhythm. We like cycles and like I mean life is a whole bunch of cycles. And like I just feel like astrology is a really cool way of kind of digging into those cycles and understanding what these points are, these themes to be you expect in the future, you know, or like
Mhm.
whatever, like however long that cycle is you're in, and
Yeah.
I find that
I've been
very
studying it
interesting.
for thousands of years. Like, I mentioned this on a class that I was teaching last night about the subject and just dating back to Egypt, ancient Babylonian times, like
Mm,
3000 BCE. They have found clay tablets that have shown over 7,000 cosmic uh, what do you call it, objects. So they were following that because if you think about it, it's their they would sit there and they would notice, oh, hey, when the sun gets to this position in the sky, then it's going to get darker earlier, or what, just little things that
yeah,
help them. It helped them uh, provide for their families and to understand the cycles of just staying alive, like agriculture.
yeah, yeah, like
So
based on the themes depicted by the positioning of the planets you observe or the
yep.
movements you observe.
I mean, even like the second century, after 80, I think they don't call it 80 anymore, or CE, current era, or I don't know what
Yeah,
the CE stands for, but maybe,
for
I don't know when they changed this anyway. Fine. But so even like the second century, this is what they would do. And then they were aware of all of these planets and how they would, different positions they'd have in the sky and certain patterns of occurrences. And so they were documenting this. And we at this point now have the gift of their wisdom and the time they had on their hands to just like look at the sky all the time.
now, what I was gonna ask, or like, yeah, I guess we could just imagine, like, imagine how, I wonder how much more visible these astronomical events are and like the transitions were back then, like 5,000 years ago. Like I feel like you would be looking at like the whole galaxy
There was
essentially.
nothing, there was no pollution in the sky.
Yeah.
I would imagine to the extent there was ever any air pollution, it would be because of fires that would happen, but not like we have now. I know I'm always amazed whenever I leave this very heavily populated suburban area I'm in, and I go anywhere where there's not a lot of people or industry at all, and then you
Mm,
see the depths of the stars you see. It's so amazing and just you can't observe that in like the area I live in right now. But yeah, to your point, I'm sure they had a very visible, they could see these constellations and stars and planets like shifting in the sky, and they would take notes of it for, many, many years. It wasn't like, oh, one person studied it for 2 years, they knew it all. I mean, like decades, and it could go
yeah.
on, to get the information, and then they would put it all together. They didn't have, Google back then. Certainly not.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. But yeah, to your point of the patterns, that's what astrology is. It's just, okay, based on these patterns, and it's like this could affect a person in a certain way. Um, if they have these placements in their chart, or if they have a certain planet, or if they happen to be a certain rising sign or a sun or a moon sign. And it's just based on so much, just years and years and years of studying that. So
Mm,
I
yeah.
think it's pretty cool. It just kind of, I don't know. I think that sometimes it's nice to have comfort in the chaos, just having some sort of certainty. And which is the reason why I also really like the Jupiter cycles, because I have seen in my own life, I've experienced, oh yeah, every 12 years when this happens, boom. And or something along the lines of those themes will occur. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah. That's incredible, honestly. And like reflecting back, like it's just a, and it's funny like that. I would be interested in astrology, which is like all based on the hundreds of thousands of years, basically, of just studying the sky and movement. But it seems hypocritical to also be someone who presses for presence, And like I'm not saying I'm perfect or anything. Like it's really hard to be present in today's world of distractions. But I don't know, I just feel like astrology is kind of both sides, it feels like, of both like now, the very present moment, but at the same time, it's based on thinking about the past occurrences.
I think that I've used it as a tool to help me be more present because again, I have found such certainty when I started studying astrology and I started looking at how these different patterns. It's uncanny especially when I look at the eclipse cycles. I'm like, wow, those for me are even more powerful. Just I there it's like an 18-month period, and I could see the same theme happening every 18 years. So every 18 years, you'll have this. It's going to be the same access. So we're going through that a cycle like that now. I may have mentioned this last time, but
Mm,
where this cycle has not happened in 18 years. And it's going to be affecting Leo also and Aquarius, the opposite sign. So um anyway, I think that that's even more powerful because I'm like, oh, okay. I'm kind of excited about this one because I really liked 18 years ago and 18 years before that. So I think it's going to be kind of cool for me personally. But I think that that's where it can be instructive. And like that's when it does allow me to be present because it's like I'm not caught off guard.
mm,
I don't
yeah.
find myself caught off guard based on certain transits. And I know that there's always a balance. Like we can go through a challenging period, but it always balances out where then we will have an easier period. And there's always going to be that, balancing act. So I guess that's the solace, like in the day to day you can find is it was, well, today was hard. Well, tomorrow's got to get better. But maybe tomorrow's not tomorrow, but it's just like just
Mm,
being present in the day and just, and trying to find gratitude even in the challenges and trying to find opportunities to, share love with people in your life that you're around you, or then also to, nurture yourself with, self care, acts of self care when it's really
mm,
challenging. So,
yeah.
yeah.
It's it's super interesting thing. I'm sorry. I always say that like because it is such a deep thing to consider like all of the I don't know, like the self-reflection and stuff, being in the moment and like truly understanding the themes and kind of the way you understand the themes is based on your self-depiction of, how these occurrences or what occurrences happened during these transits or like positions of planets or like relative to other things and relative to Earth. I mean, and there's like a million different things that I could keep going about the specificity. But yeah, I just think it's intimidatingly beautiful.
Yeah, I love that. I think so. I think it's exciting. Your excitement for like what's coming is contagious. And an interesting aspect of this, sorry, just before I say what I'm going to say, I wanted to give this little backdrop. An interesting aspect of the Jupiter leaving Cancer
Mm,
was it could, it could, the shift, I kind of felt like it could, I found myself getting stuck in the past couple of weeks here and there and just like overthinking, too much in my head, which is that energy when you're like too much in the mind. And, you know, or just like not ruminating really, but I think that I lost that excitement for what's to come. And I think that if others have felt that in the past, especially the last phase of this transit, or even maybe for the past year, it was like there has been a lot of things happening in the world that people can worry about. But I think that even getting stuck in that worrying and or just thinking, overthinking aspect of this, it was a reminder to not do that and to connect with people. And I just feel the energy is going to be a lot more fire energy. It's Leo. It's that hello.
Yeah.
People are going to be a little more gregarious and social. And I think that if people have felt a little shut off from other people in the past year, it's legit. It's true.
Hmm.
But some people are okay being shut off. I need people. So
Yeah, we're very similar in that sense.
yeah. And I
Like
think,
I'm excited about that, like that fact. Because
yeah. And I
I
think,
just think about how many like relationships or like friends or opportunities can spawn from all this. All this simple transit, quote unquote simple transit,
well, and
is
if people
enough.
have, sorry, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
No, no, no.
No,
It's okay. No, you continue.
no, you go on. Sorry. I don't want to.
It's okay. Um, yeah. So I was saying it's amazing how this simple transit can be so deeply impactful to you mentally, like emotionally, and like even like physically, because like everything is like it's like a chain, a chain effect. So like it's like a ripple effect, you'd say. I don't
Well,
know.
yeah, it's like always like it's a stepping stone. Every part of astrology, when you look at it, it's like one builds on the next, on the next, on the next. So it's kind of cool when you see those layers. And so when you go through kind of like a more inward period and phase, and like this would definitely have been like an opportunity. Some people may have been forced into it because maybe they had been ignoring, you know, um, the need to like just chill out and like, go inward, or, some people may have felt like, psychological like overwhelm or kind of burnout, which may have forced them to go inward. And then where if you just recognize, okay, this is why I love astrology because, oh, knowing Jupiter's in Cancer. So I'm going to really take advantage of this and do that psychological work and do that inward work. Um, and kind of, protect my energy and protect my emotional world because the work that we do now will now become more of our authentic Leo energy and how we show up in the world and how we express ourselves. So it's kind of cool when you understand that, like, oh, what's going on this past year? I felt kind of moody, or I felt like in touch with emotions I didn't want to be in touch with. And it's just like when that's what the weather forecast is, you're gonna plan
Yeah.
accordingly, And so but yeah, so it's like a bridge. So I think that the last part of it, the whole month of June really was like could have felt like the last sort of lessons or the last experiences of this Jupiter in Cancer. And then, it's hopefully people did like some work, and then it's going to just emerge as a newer way of showing up, and they're going to want to show up more because of the energy of it being in Leo.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. How can this connect back into hope and encouragement? Like, so for the brain injured, you'd say, like, how can this, so, because I'm brain injured, obviously, and, the people that, a lot of people, that are watching this are likely brain injured or know the brain injured more personally.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so not I mean, acknowledging the fact that like memory and stuff is kind of makes is kind of a challenge, or it's like forever affected. Short-term memory is all forever impacted pretty negatively. Um, so like what would be the how would you remember these like core things, or I guess relative to each each planet and stuff, and like I guess they're because I think like I personally as a brain injured survivor, um, I think of the each planet like kind of personified, like they're like characters,
Oh, neat. Yeah.
and like because
That's
I
a good way
think
to think of it.
it just makes it a little bit easier.
Oh,
Like
I love that.
it's
That's so cool. I think, it'd be cool with that, Holden, if like that helps you remember the planets and helps you understand their energy.
mm,
Like that would be a good practice for you to do is to go through your chart and and give each planet like a character name, a name, like
yeah,
create your own little if this works for your thinking, um, and create a little cast of characters and the roles they play are fitting to the planets they are and where they are in your chart. And then that might be an easier way to remember, you know, um, the energy of an Aries sun is like new. Let's try everything. It's ambitious. It's fun. It's a
yeah,
very light. It doesn't, Aries sun doesn't want to go that emotionally deep. They just don't. But your moon in Taurus, that's different. So that's what gives you some depth that if somebody were just all Aries, they may not have. But it also is protective when somebody doesn't go that deep emotionally. They don't ruminate. They just kind of move on, you know. So, but we could do that if you wanted to. Not right now, but like just go through and like if the characterization of the planets works for you, and you'd be like, okay, so Aunt Sally's coming over. So, you know, I better
yeah,
make sure my room's clean. Or I better make sure that I have all my like Mercury would have like the Mercury retrograde that's starting in oh gosh, this week. Um that energy again, depending on where Mercury is, what it is in your chart. I know I'm getting way into the weeds, but how could people work with that energy with the brain injured? I
mm,
think and I don't I know there's a lot of different levels of brain injury and how people I guess how you can correct me because I'm probably wrong about this, but how it can impact their emotional response to things. So I think that you lean into love and kind of like optimism. So I think that
for sure.
I would definitely with your just focus on the positive stuff in the chart and don't because there's always going to be some positive. There's always something positive happening in your astrological, you know, snapshot, but
Yeah,
sometimes it's a little more challenging to find. But I think that, like your moon in Taurus is amazing. And I would just like having that focus on that love energy is so helpful and healing. I think that just focusing on a positive aspect. I think Jupiter is typically very positive for people. Um, Meaning it just puts a spotlight on that area in their chart every transit. So, I think focusing on the positive planets and just to give hope to just keep on keeping on.
mm,
We all
yeah,
have challenging transits, all of us. None of us escape this life with.
yeah, yeah.
So,
Yeah, and that's kind of the way I see it too. About like the challenges, like because if you think about how like I know it differs like challenge to challenge, especially like throughout life, like everything. They might not have any relation, but like it's the way they do relate is the impact on you. Like you allow certain you either allow or you're forced into allowing this challenge to impact you in a negative, like a super dramatically negative way or dramatically positive, like, oh, I love this moment because that will like be ingrained into your brain.
yeah.
And yeah, like your emotional memory is um, the best way to, after the brain injury, short-term memory is iffy. So I don't know. It's kind of like I'm saying to make things, give things an emotional value to
Yeah.
remember it more clearly.
Do you find, I'm just wondering, do you find that the brain injured community, like they may not remember the details, but they hold on, remember the feelings of an interaction? So like the memory they carry from, maybe not all, but is that some, a part of the memory that still is pretty much preserved is like
Yeah.
the emotional side. So the feelings of like being around a certain person could just like elicit an emotion that it just is. And it's hard to, and maybe they might not even have like the memory or the details of the memory, but they have the feeling still in place. Is that
Yeah.
accurate?
Yeah, I would definitely say so. Like, 'cause you remember how you felt. I mean, that's like the biggest thing for like from what I've heard too. That like you, when it comes to memory, like you remember your emotions of these moments. Like you don't remember necessarily the specific moment so clearly. You just remember like the clearest thing you do remember is the way you felt during that occurrence or that yeah, experience.
Interesting. I would say that because you have that Aries sun energy and you have the your moon in Taurus, that you
Mm.
probably have mostly positive feelings from the circumstances.
Definitely.
So you're fortunate. I mean, that's interesting. Yeah, I would say if you had anything Cancer, like Cancer Sun or Cancer Moon, that could be different, a different experience. And Scorpio, yeah, some other signs have a harder time moving past emotional. Um, yeah, or the emotions become much larger than the situation somebody else may have deemed the situation to be, but that's just that it's just true to that person how they feel. So
Yeah.
in situations, I would say just try to find some gratitude because gratitude is can be harder, and and love can be harder for some people.
Mm.
But the more you practice, it's like a muscle. You're building it, and you're just going to create more of an ease into finding a gratitude, a silver lining in some situation.
Yeah, actually, that's funny you say that, like that muscle example, you know, 'cause emotions are muscles, and if you work out one muscle more consistently, it's gonna be just a bigger and bigger muscle. So like if you just work out like a moment, like the feeling that you love, like doing something you truly enjoy, like or something you're proud of, then that's like working it out and it makes it easier to activate again. You
Mm-hmm.
know, that's yeah. I don't know.
Well,
I'm a little pumped about
no, no,
that.
that's true. It's like the more that you see, I mean, if you are afraid, like fear is a big one that can become so big that um, people they just see it, then they start seeing it everywhere,
Mm,
and and it's valid to have some fear. That's what I think human beings are really great at having anxiety and fear because that's what protected us, right, for
mm.
thousands and thousands of years from danger and allowed us to thrive as a species. But I think at some point, to if somebody finds themselves being fearful, and again, if they don't have, it must be hard to understand that when you don't have the like specific details of that memory, just the feeling. I think one thing to do is in those moments of fear is you can create a new experience in that meaning. I'm not saying as the fear is happening, but I'm saying if you're remembering a fearful feeling,
Mm.
getting a new experience in that same environment, possibly, or in that same situation that is neutral or even like a loving or a joyful experience. And like the more you do that, the fear goes away, or
Yeah.
you're just changing the tone of the muscle. Um, building a new muscle in that same environment. So,
Yeah, I love that. That's a funny analogy we just crafted.
well, I mean, I do, but it is like a muscle. Like anytime you do it more and
Yeah.
more, you have this giant like fear or Anger's hard. That's a hard one because it's just so, you know,
Like
primary.
deep
Yeah, it's
or
just,
impactful, whatever.
I guess, I don't know how easy it is to find the pause in anger for some people. Um, you know,
Yeah,
some
after the
people just
brain injury,
overreact.
it is
Yeah.
a much harder thing typically.
It's just much more,
Um,
it's how to like put a pause in the reaction. The reactiveness can be really challenging, I bet.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it because it all comes down like it all like comes together in like a I don't know. It's wild. Like it's I feel like it is because like there have been times, of course, that I have overreacted to something like I mean, still like sometimes I do, but that's pretty rare at this point. But it is like it's hard to limit, like, or like, take a moment, take a breath, step back, take a breath, and, truly think about like what it is you're experiencing. What is it that you are feeling? Like just learning to observe.
Well, I think that's hard for anybody. A lot of people struggle with that,
Yeah.
and they have no, they've not had a brain injury, and we find ourselves being reactive. And I think again, like just like thinking about the astrology, when I see a challenging transit up ahead, like usually involving Mars, and I know how it's going to impact me personally,
Mm,
I just even still though, I will. You just find yourself agitated and just but I just try to be really aware of my reactions in those periods. But even still, like we're human. It's just, and some of us are more reactive than others. Like, some astrology charts literally show a person has just never been angry, like outwardly angry in their life.
oh
And it's,
yeah.
but that's also not healthy. Like you need to have some outlet for the emotions.
Mm,
But and or they just they're very good at never losing their cool, but then they have this like internal fire that they don't know how to put out or how to express it. So just because it's not visible on the outside doesn't mean it's, of course all these emotions exist within us. It's just
mm,
how we process them and how we get them out of our system.
thank you.
Yeah, you're
Um,
welcome, of course.
yeah, I don't know. It is I don't know. It's just emotions are such a mysterious thing, honestly.
It's
Like,
yeah,
considering no other, or well, to our knowledge, I think, we're like the only mammals that truly have like emotions like this.
right. Yeah, we are the most complicated. I mean, you're complex, not complicated, but complex. But you're learning more and more about the emotions, like how, and just some basic things, like, are you getting enough sleep? Like, I see this in my two of my children when they are tired, they get hangry. I don't have the hanger, like, I don't ever get hangry, but I see it in their charts. I see these traits. And so, and then they can be one thing about a Taurus moon. I was reminded of this today when I was listening to something. The Taurus moon, and I see this with my daughter, when they get really angry, they can have a temper sometimes. But because Taurus rules the throat, what it could do, it's like they may not have the words for it. And so they don't know how to react in that situation.
Mm,
And it's like they don't, it's like a discomfort. It's not a very comfortable feeling for them, and they can be reactive. But and my daughter for sure, I see that with her, but there's a lot of other things that would influence. Just saying you're a Taurus moon doesn't mean that's going to happen.
yeah.
Some people look at the Taurus moon, they will soothe themselves with like really yummy food, like comfort food. They or activities that would help a Taurus moon process their emotions would be like cooking or doing something creative, love focused. And you're an Aries sun. So an Aries sun, I would say you have to do like be moving around. Like you got
Yeah.
to move the energy out of you. And but the Taurus moon also, like, yeah, like, that's why I know you like yoga, I can imagine, and like things like that,
Mm,
where it's like a blending of that movement with something like soothing and nurturing for you. But I mean, not didn't mean to talk about like you. I'm just saying that as far as the emotions go, there's some uncanny ties in the astrology chart based on the moon and your Mars and just where it is and how it shows up in your chart. And it's pretty accurate when I've seen this in people. And I think again, that's another tool to help somebody process what they're feeling, especially if they've never felt like it was safe to share their emotions, because that will show up in the chart too.
mm.
That's why that was. And then there's ways to do it in a safe way, and then they feel better. you know?
Yeah, it's
Uh,
magic,
yeah. It's
essentially.
pretty cool. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
it's one more tool. And I think it's not astrology does not have all the answers. Not everybody's going to be like, I think it's like that's, doesn't make sense to me. And that's totally fine. But I just say that for emotional processing, you need to have somebody or have some sort of guidance, because if you are looking for the answers in yourself and you've never been able to do it well effectively, then it's just going to create more problems that can manifest physically, in your life. Yeah. And I think Jupiter's hopeful. And like, I think it's a great thing to give people, they don't even have to know, well, they should know what their houses are, but just knowing that Jupiter is going into a certain sign, and especially, and then thinking back to where was I 12 years ago and what was happening in my life then, and giving yourself some grace if it wasn't a positive period 12 years ago and the 12 years before that. I
Mm,
wouldn't look at just one 12-year, you know, Jupiter transit as, oh God, it's all going to be like that. No, it's not. It could be just like shades of that, but generally the themes are pretty consistent.
yeah.
I think that's Jupiter is a great planet to talk about hope, and like Venus is also, and like how people can like show up for love, and how they can receive love and give love, and what feels good for them and feels like natural. Like we talked about before, how like Leo moons are different than like an Aquarius moon, or like you know
Yeah.
things that they value, and but they how they feel good and they feel fulfilled when they receive love in a certain way and when they give love in a certain way. Like that's their love language, for lack of a better word. But I wish we had
Yeah.
more words for love. I say that every time because thing
Yeah.
it's not just romance. It's like we all need love to survive. You can't
Really. It's like a
live without
fuel.
it. Is, yeah. Just like the connection energy with somebody, that's a form of love, right?
Mm,
And when you connect with somebody and it feels fulfilling, and you get energy from that and they get energy, it's like, what a beautiful experience. Just, having good communication with somebody is always a great way to share the energy, the positive energy of love. And it's also Jupiter energy too, is expansion, expanding minds, expanding ideas, sharing ideas. That's can be very Jupiter energy as well.
it's sweet. Yeah,
Yeah.
it sounds pretty great if you ask me.
Yeah. So look at your Jupiter, people, and figure out where it is, and
Yeah.
and
And
ask
things will
what
get a
happened
little
12
bit
years
easier.
ago. I
Yeah.
think it's again, we live in cycles. Like nothing's ever been perfect in a straight line in this existence, or this like
Hmm.
how many years has the Earth been here? Thousands and thousands. I don't even know.
Yeah.
The
I don't even
world,
think
or
like I don't even think like it's not it's just estimated, honestly.
nobody knows. Yeah.
Yeah, which I think is so cool. Is there anything you would like to leave the viewers with, like your website or like
Oh,
your
sure. Yeah, my website is www.goldenthreadastrology.com. And I just launched that in my Leo period started in May. Kind of funny. Anyway, but I always love sharing information. I will share it here. And if anybody wants to book a reading, that's a great place to start. And I would love to help, I like to empower people with what I know, and let them learn a little bit about astrology, so then they kind of feel like they have some sort of um, authority in their own lives to understand what's happening and maybe make the best of different situations that come their way as it will. Awesome. Well, thank you for having me, Holden.
Yeah, of course. Bye.
Bye.